All right, today we're going to dig into the very foundations of construction, and I mean that literally. We're about to uncover how a mistake smaller than a grain of rice can create an absolute tidal wave of problems, costing millions and completely derailing massive projects. So let's get into it.
It sounds totally nuts, right? A single millimeter. I mean, think about it. That's about the thickness of your credit card. How on earth could something that tiny cause such a huge financial disaster? Well, in the world of big construction, that one little millimeter can be the very first domino in a very, very expensive chain reaction.
To really understand how this all goes down, we've got to go right back to the beginning. We need to talk about what you could call the project's DNA. This is the fundamental code, the absolute blueprint that dictates where every single part of a building is supposed to go. And it's all decided before a single shovel even hits the dirt.
Now, the technical term for this DNA is survey control. All it is, really, is the process of setting up this kind of invisible grid of incredibly precise points all across the construction site. Just imagine it's the master plan but laid out right on the actual ground. Every single measurement for the entire job, every wall, every pipe, every floor, it all refers back to these exact points.
This whole survey control thing really just boils down to three simple but absolutely critical functions. First, position, that's the where. Then you've got level, that's the how high. And finally, alignment, how things line up. If you get these three things perfect, you've got a rock-solid foundation. But if you get even one of them wrong, well, that's when all the trouble starts.
So, let's introduce the villain of our story. And it's not some big dramatic event or a major accident. Nope. It's something quiet, something almost invisible. It's the very first small crack in that otherwise perfect foundation.
It happens right here, with the very first measurement they take, what they call the site benchmark. This is the main reference point. It's like point zero for the whole project. And a surveyor, maybe they're just having a bit of an off day, or their equipment is a tiny bit out of calibration, makes a tiny error. An error so small it seems completely harmless at first.
But here's the thing about that error. It doesn't stay small, and it definitely doesn't stay harmless. This is the moment that little ripple starts turning into a tidal wave. This is where the dominoes really start to fall.
So first, that tiny benchmark error throws off the position of all the structural columns. Then, because those columns are in the wrong spot, all the floor levels get misaligned. You see how it's spreading? The error doesn't just add up, it actually multiplies, creating chaos across the entire project where suddenly nothing fits together the way it's supposed to.
And this gets us right to the heart of the issue. Small survey errors multiply across the project. See, this isn't about just one mistake. It's about one mistake becoming the foundation for hundreds of other decisions down the line. Every single crew that comes on site, the plumbers, the electricians, the steel workers, they are all trusting that initial survey control. And when it's wrong, everything they build on top of it is wrong too.
And that leads us to the climax of our story, the astronomical price of having to fix all these compounded errors. This is where that single millimeter comes back to haunt the project in a massive, massive way.
So let's just put this in perspective one more time. We started with an error of just 1 millimeter, a tiny deviation that you literally couldn't even see with the naked eye.
And the consequence of that? That 1 millimeter error led to rework that cost over $1.5 million. And that isn't just the cost of new materials. No, that's paying for demolition, paying labor to do the same job a second time, and paying premium rates just to rush everything and try to get back on schedule. All of that from a mistake the thickness of a credit card.
But the financial hit, believe it or not, is only part of the story. Think about the huge project delays when everything just grinds to a halt. Think of the mountains of wasted steel and concrete that now have to be just thrown out. And maybe the worst part of all, the damage to a company's reputation. This is how projects fail.
So how do you prevent this million-dollar disaster? Well, the good news is it's entirely preventable. It all comes down to securing that foundation from the very beginning, with the right checks and balances in place. Just look at this comparison. On one side, you've got proactive checks. That just means making a small investment upfront to have a second, independent surveyor come in and verify the initial setup before a single thing gets built. And it's a simple layer of quality control. On the other side, you've got reactive rework. All the chaos we've been talking about, with massive, unpredictable costs, delays, and arguments. When you see it side by side like this, the path forward is pretty obvious, isn't it?
At the end of the day, we have to stop thinking of these checks as a cost. They're not a cost, they are the project's insurance policy against chaos. It's the single best way to guarantee that the project's DNA is pure and that everything built upon it is going to be accurate, saving you unimaginable headaches and money down the line.
So that leaves us with one final question to think about, and it applies whether you're in construction or not, really, because the principle is universal. Is your foundation solid? Because as we've just seen, the smallest crack at the very beginning can bring the entire structure down.